All right, before we get into things today, I just want to throw a little shout out to a friend of mine, Tom. I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you enjoy these next few episodes. So, thanks, pal. Appreciate it. All right, so everyone, welcome back. Today, I have Miss. Do you go Jess or Jessica?
Jess.
Jess. Okay,
Yeah.
Jess Issacson of Insideout Care. Insideout Care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cut woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cutman,
Cutman, cut person these days. All right, so look, I'm going to start kind of a new thing, I think, as I'm kind of finding out how this podcast is going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, one question I want to ask you is, how has MMA or combat sports or sports in general, I guess, how has that changed your life?
Well, hugely, it has changed my life. For me, I suffer with anxiety. I don't speak about a huge amount, and not a lot of people know that I suffer with anxiety because of health issues I've had over the years, and it sort of kept me grounded with the anxiety. Because I don't like to take medication, I don't like to be restricted. So training, finding martial arts again later in life, I did it for a long time as a child, right up till sort of my early 20s. And then obviously I had a child and life got in the way and all the stuff that happens and illnesses and stuff. And then I figured that, my doctors figured I suffered with severe anxiety for a while. And then because of that, I put on some weight. And obviously the medication I was on for the illnesses I had, and I was suffering more and more with the anxiety. So I found martial arts again late, like in my 30s.
Okay.
And ever since, I haven't really had any bad bouts in the last probably 15 years, which is amazing, really. Yeah.
So this has definitely helped with your overall anxiety and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a reoccurring theme that I keep hearing, and I think for a lot of people who aren't a part of the sport, it's difficult for them to kind of comprehend that. And certainly for me, 2.5, 3 years ago, if someone were to have told me that, I probably would think they're crazy.
Mm-hmm. I see it all the time. Not even just from our side of things, but with fighters, young and older fighters, with people working in the background.
What do you think it is? What do you think it is about, kind of martial arts?
I think it's the structure, more than anything. And I don't think it really is any particular martial art. I think it's an accumulation of them all. I find Thai works for me. I find that I have to put so much into it. The structure of going to training every day of the week, making sure I turn up no matter, how my head feels. Also, the people that are there, I find it's much more family orientated.
Okay.
And you're made to feel more like a family. So originally I started back in Muay Thai, but now that I primarily work with MMA and I'm in a lot of MMA gyms, I see that as much there as I did in the Thai when I first started back.
Do you see kind of like obviously you would see kind of the same fighters over and over again. Like, do you see a change in kind of how they're progressing? Mm-hmm. Maybe the first time you met them or their very first fight, you're the one there, wrapping their hands and everything, and then potentially, you could see them up to their pro debut.
And we have done on many occasions. Like we've been lucky enough to work with some of the fighters that are on the UFC at the moment. You have them on LFL, you have them on Hexagon, Brave, Cage Warriors, all of these guys, 90% of these we will have worked with from grassroots MMA, their very first amateur or novice fight right up to their pro debuts. So we've been lucky enough, and that's the part of it I love the most.
Yeah.
People can say, I want to go to this show and I want to go to that show, but for me, grassroots MMA and watching them grow throughout it, maybe it's because I'm a mother, I don't know, but definitely I love seeing the same people as much as I love going and travelling and seeing other fighters. And again, I'm lucky enough that I've done the IMAFs over the years, so I've seen guys come out of all countries and girls who have started their journey at the IMAFs and are now pro fighting all over the world, and I've seen them right through, so I've been very, very lucky over the years.
Yeah, it's a very fortunate position to see, people kind of learn a skill and then potentially make it, a career. And you're watching them. You're watching them kind of evolve from, in a lot of cases, children to, professional adults, and like that's certainly fantastic. And I definitely think. You should be proud of that.
It's not just the kids though. Like I'm working with the Women to Warrior program now, Alta, obviously. Since its inception here in Ireland, since its very first show, and we have seen lads and ladies who both came to do the very first Women to Warrior, and now they're fighting on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So it shows it can be done by anybody, whether it be age, or age is really just a number, until you get to a certain age, and then your injuries cause you the problem more so than. But for the majority of it, I see the transition even at the shows like Alta. I've seen the guys working with them. I see them online all the time, and you can even see the transition online. The training that they do from start to finish, and that to me is just as important as the kids going into grassroots MMA.
Yeah, now tell me, how did you get started in
in martial
with the cuts? With the cuts. Like what?
So sort of what happened was I was training and fighting out with warriors, and it was always very difficult for me to get fights because of my size, because I'm quite small, and I would be cornering at fights anyway, and then I broke my hand. And it wouldn't have been the first time. I was throwing an overhand in shark bait just before I was prepping for a fight, and I was doing shark bait in the gym with the guys before the fight, probably about 10 days out from the fight.
Yeah.
And I went and I fought on it in Cork with the broken hand, not even thinking it was broken, to be honest with you. And then went to the hospital a few days later, realised I had a broken hand, and then I was out for a couple of weeks. And I happened to be at a show cornering someone a few weeks later, and I seen the cuts team, and that's sort of how it kicked off. He asked me to like wrap a hand and send some videos or pictures, which I did, and then a week later I was working on a show.
No, that quickly.
Yeah. So
how long ago was this then?
God, now we're what 10 odd years.
Yeah. Okay.
At this stage, so yeah, it just sort of rollerballed from there. And at the time, like back in the day, there was a huge amount of events on in Ireland. We could have been doing like Friday,
more than
Saturday.
There are now?
Oh God, yeah.
Really?
There was so many events running, and they were back to back. Like, so there'd be weekends you'd be doing 2 or 3 shows a weekend.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and you might only have one weekend off, and then you'd be back to another 2 shows. So it was very regularly. It was probably only sort of maybe June and July were the 2 months that were most quiet at the time.
Gotcha.
But otherwise, you were up and down the country all the time. And then obviously we had a lot of big shows coming to Ireland as well. And in 2016 then I debuted on BAMA, if you remember BAMA. I'm the first woman to ever work on TV this side of the world. Like, so Jude Samuels and BAMA allowed me to work on that. So, that was amazing because, technically that was history in the making. So that's a really proud moment for me. And since obviously I've gone on, I've worked Cage Warriors, Brave, Bellator.
Everywhere you are.
Yeah, a good few of the big shows.
Nice long resume.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But I love getting home to our shows at home in Ireland. Yeah. So, it's they're as important to me as the big shows are.
Where have you been that has been kind of like the most exciting for you?
Well, Bahrain is like our second home.
Okay.
We spend a huge amount of time out there. We have a really good relationship with the Bahrain Federation and Mohammed Shahid from Brave, and Valeria and Faith. and Sam. So I suppose going to Bahrain is huge for us because we do love it, and it is like a second home, and they've made it feel like that over the last few years. And yeah, I do love it, and I'm going out there since, I think the first year I went out was 2017 for the IMAFs.
Yeah.
And then obviously I've been probably 8 or 9 times now at this stage.
Wow. And
we spent a lot of time there in the pandemic. So because we were, we were doing shows behind closed doors. So we're spending a month at a go nearly there. So there's a whole team of us with Deck Larkin and his combat commission. And then obviously Insideout Care, myself and Brian. And then we had another guy with us from the team out at one stage as well. So yeah, I think like for me, Bahrain is probably the place I love going the most, but I think it's because it feels like family when we're out there with them, and not just like work, that way. So
yeah, it's nice to, it's a job, but to feel kind of at home and like welcomed, like you're not just kind of there to work. You're you're a part of the crew.
Yeah. No, it's just it feels like being at home in Ireland to a degree. When we're doing the shows here, because we know
less
everybody.
Rain.
Yeah, it's just mad. It's weird. It's one of those things I never thought I would think that would be like that, but it is. It's very much. It feels like when we go to Bahrain, it feels like we're just in Ireland. In Ireland, only much hotter. And we, get to do whatever we want. So, and then work a show as well. So, we get the best of both worlds. So, we're lucky enough in that sense.
It's fantastic. So, Insideout Care. That's your business.
Yeah, my baby. Yeah, I say it's my baby. It actually, in fairness, it didn't only come from me. Obviously, I was with the other team, and I finished up with them in. Was it 2017? It was 2017, so it would have been after the IMAFs in 2017. And one or two of the guys from the old team as well, who's Brian, you know Brian obviously. Danny you probably haven't met. She took time off to have a child, so she's from Belfast as well. And then what happened was I sort of moved on, and it was time to sort of spread our wings a bit. And we decided that between the three of us, we were going to sort of start up Insideout. It was sort of fighter care and safety prior to Insideout Care.
Okay.
And it had been running for
Insideout Care kind of rolls off the tongue a bit better.
Yeah, and I think it's just because Insideout Care, when I designed the logo, there's a whole reason behind the logo. It's not just a logo, like to everyone else it's a logo, but to me it's not. There was a whole reason to how the design came about of it. But it was originally fighter care and safety, and as much as I loved that, it just didn't really ever sit with me right. Because we don't just look after fighters, we look after coaches, we look after everybody inside and out. And it just made sense to change the name. But we primarily had started doing Thai shows and K1, because obviously that's the background I come from. Because at the time the MMA scene was sort of sewn up with the other team, which was fine. So we did that for a while, and then in around about the December we relaunched as Insideout Care. So it was out since about the May, and we relaunched in the December, early December. I think it's the 5th of December, I'm going to say, is our anniversary. And at that stage Tommy McCormick had come on with us on board to give us some, to give us a dig out, but also he has a huge amount of knowledge, and he's one of the OGs of cuts in this country. So to have Tommy there with us, and I had worked with Tommy previously, so I knew what I was getting, and he'd always been great help to me. So when he said he would come on board and give us a dig out and sort of help us, get our
great to have that kind of experience.
100%. Yeah.
Especially when you're just kind of starting out. Like, I mean, certainly you kind of knew what you were doing, but like just to have someone of that caliber, kind of, it gives you a bit more credibility. Even,
it does, and it gives you a huge boost, a confidence boost, knowing that, because I think at that stage I was sort of having a little meltdown, and I was like, am I going to stay doing cuts? Am I not going to stay doing cuts? Where do I go from here, type of thing. And between Brian, Danny, and Tommy, and Lar Bourne, actually, I must give him a shout out, because in fairness he is instrumental in it. Between the lot of them, it made sense, like, and they were saying, don't be giving up, it's time to move on, find your feet again, and again, I think some of that was down to anxiety as well. So it just sort of rollerballed from there, and we're coming into our, is it 6th year anniversary soon. So, and we're flying. We're flying. We have a big team. We're working every weekend. I think we do every show bar one in the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, so yeah, we have a brilliant team. I'm really, really blessed. Like that, you know, the team we have that work together. We just work amazingly well together. It's like a little family, you know. We're professional, but we have a great laugh when we're working.
Having a good time. It's not. I mean, it's work, but it's fun.
not work, it's fun.
Yeah,
It's what we love. You know, it's mad because people do say, oh, all that blood and do you like it and all, and we're like, oh, it's sort of like cup porn, you know. You know, it's one of those things. It is a bit like cup porn, for us, you know, and I don't mean that rudely, but you know, we see that and it's like our eyes light up, and it means that, you know,
work.
Yeah, it is. And like, probably like yourself with this job, you know, it sort of is more of a hobby than an actual job as such.
Definitely.
You have to love it to do it. Yeah. If you do it for money, then there's no point in doing it, because you'll never make money doing this job. Ever.
I hope not. I hope that's not true. But,
well, for you, maybe.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah. No, not.
Back in the States, I trained to be EMT and paramedic. Mm-hmm. So, like, as far as cut porn is concerned, I totally give it to me, because you know, we would get calls, and you know, it's always a medical.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get that one call, and it you know, it's, you know, a car accident. It sounds terrible, you know, but it's a car accident.
But it's that excitement.
You get excited, like, yes,
you get
like,
butterflies.
Yeah, like like, you know, almost, you know, kind of real work. You know, it's, you get excited because you know that, well, in that instance, you get excited because someone else is having a terrible day, and you're coming to try and make their day, you know, that little bit better as much as you can. So like that's where a lot of it comes from. And
like, don't get me wrong, I don't ever want to see anybody get hurt, ever. But if they do get hurt, I'm straight in there. You know, and that's what I mean by, you know, I want everyone to go home safe. Every single show we do, I want everyone to go home safe, because that's someone's, you know, brother or sister or mother or father or husband or wife child. Yeah. Exactly. So I always want everyone to go home, but where there is something happens, then, you know, we are there. That's what we are there for. We are there to look after you and make sure that we can send you home in the best possible state.
What's the worst you've seen?
Oh God, there's been a lot of bad ones. Yeah, like way open cuts in the middle of the face, forehead, almost like Harry Potter.
Really?
I had a 6-inch gash on the back of the head.
Ow.
With multiple other cuts on a show recently. You become an octopus almost trying to do it, and people do think that it's a case we just walk in and do it, and it looks that easy till you're in that predicament.
No, I know the cuts team doesn't necessarily, as far as like if a wound is too, like the doctor would be the one to call the fight.
We can't call the fight.
Yeah, but you do you advise the doctor? Do you kind of be like, hey, look, this isn't really sticking here, or, you know, like how does that work?
We're not really supposed to.
Okay.
But at home here in Ireland, we work with the same medical teams, whether it be EFAST, Code Blue, NI Sports Medics up the north, and we have a brilliant relationship with the teams that we work with, and obviously we've been doing this a long, long time. So to a degree, you know, they will ask your opinion on stuff, and, you know, I'm doing this a long time, so there is times I have given my opinion. It's not my call, you know. If I'm asked for my opinion, I'll give it. If I'm not, I don't. But I have been in other countries where the doctors ask my opinion as well, because again, I've worked with them on numerous shows and numerous events. It just depends. We can't call a fight no matter what. I've explained this. Everybody asks us the same thing, and not just. Sometimes
the fighters are a bit hesitant about when you guys do come in.
We try to explain that as well, in especially in the rules meeting. Like we're not there. Like I said, we will always teach people when we do the course that not to run in where the fighters are, because that does freak them out a little bit and takes them out of their mojo, and that's something we don't want to do. If you're come baiting in the cage, you know, they do freak a little bit, and they're like, oh, am I all right? Like, are they going to stop the fight type thing? And I have been asked by so many fighters. I remember when I did an interview before, and I remember a comment somebody put underneath that interview, and they were saying, or something about it being a woman rather than a man being in there, and then brought up this situation. Oh, you sure you don't even know your adrenaline is pumping? And that's bullshit, really, because fighters do know. Because fighters, especially professional fighters, they're in there to earn money.
Yeah,
it's their living.
They have definitely a good gauge on their body.
Oh,
for sure.
100%. Yeah. Like, I have walked in and a fighter said to me, I know I'm cut, is it really bad? You know, I'm just like, yeah, it's beautiful, it's grand, you're good, you know. 9 times out of 10, I'd never say a word to anybody.
Okay. Just try to patch them up.
Yeah. And because we work from the side always, unless there's a multitude of cuts on the face, I will always try to work on the side, so I don't take a coach from the face of the fighter, which means they're less worried about what I'm doing and more interested in what their coach is saying and doing. You know, and it's those little ways to help them not to feel like there's a big reason to why I'm in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Sorry. Now, you'd mentioned comments. In the comments, you know, someone had mentioned because you're a woman. Like, has that been like an issue?
It's a theme that runs throughout our life.
Is that like the overall sport? I feel like be pretty welcoming to kind of anybody. Obviously, you have, you know, there's always outliers. I'll call them outliers. You know, where for whatever reason, you know, your gender does somehow make a difference. You know, and like it. My assumption would be far and few between. Like, is that true, or would it be a bit more frequent, do you think?
It's more frequent than I'd like it to be, but it's less frequent than it used to be.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it's certainly improving then.
Yeah, it definitely has improved over the years.
Happy to hear that.
It is much better than it was. There is, you know, certain countries and people who...
Yeah, just about to say, like, what about, like, you know, especially when you go to the Middle East, how is that?
I have had 1 or 2 issues.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 or 2. But for the majority, I'd say probably out of maybe 15 fights on a card, I might have an issue with 1.
Okay.
1. So 95% really don't give a shit. Excuse my French. And then there's always that one person that does. Like, I had a guy recently, and I wrapped his hands out the back, and we had a great laugh. I even have videos of us having laugh and photos. And then he basically said that he didn't want me to work in his corner because he's a Muslim.
Okay.
And it's in his Bible or Quran, or I don't do. Yeah, I don't do politics, and I don't do religion. My family is Jewish and Catholic, and I'm an atheist, so I have no interest in religion or politics in any way. If he doesn't want me to do his corner, you know, I'm not happy about it, but I'm also not going to cause a fight over.
Yeah, no, that seems a bit more reasonable than someone who's just, you know...
Well, I think it was more to do with... I think it was more to do with he had a bath or some sort of wash. Or something. And once that was explained to me, it was like, yeah, cool. You know, I'm good with that. Yeah. So, like, I don't have an issue with that. I mean, I've had people message me and they've not been nice.
Really?
Men message me saying, wow. How do you get on shows like that? You're a woman, you shouldn't be doing this job. And
that's crazy. Like,
I delete and block.
In my experience, like, I feel like I would prefer a woman, because it's kind of like that caring
maternal
maternal you get that caring maternal face, you know, kind of, you know, to come and help you. Like, I feel like I would almost prefer that rather than, you know, like another big dude, you know, who's, you know,
you get a lot of fighters that are like that as well. I had an Irish guy who got KO'd at a show abroad, and I went in. He was still out cold when I got in, but by the time he woke up, I was you know, bent over him, and the minute he seen me, he was like, "Oh God, thank God it's you, Jess," type of thing. So you get it from both angles, and I really don't I'm there to do a job, and that's all I'm there to do. And if I make friends along the way, brilliant. And if I don't, like, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, let me tell you. You know, I really amn't. But what I will give you, no matter whether you like me or dislike me, is 1,000,000% care when I'm in there. No matter, you know, how much we like each other or not. You know, it's the same. Everybody I want to provide the same standard of care to the big, massive shows that we do to our amateur shows. And people see that now, that the level on the grassroots here in Ireland that we provide when we've come and worked on big shows with those fighters, because they're so used to that level, you know, they're now saying, like, we've big promoters saying, well, we didn't realise you did this and you did this and you did this, and this is the level. And that's right through from novice all the way up to professional, whether it be your first fight or your very last fight.
I've been to a show before where the cuts team was, I don't want to say it. It was very
just say it.
Just say minimal, and like you notice the difference because I'm confident you probably your team wrapped my hands for my first fight, and then going from that one to another one, and it was literally, you know, it was the bare minimum. You know, the bare minimum allowed in Ireland, basically.
And that was an MMA show, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It just, I mean, all right, I should, first of all, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so just the perception that I saw, like, it looked totally different, you know what I mean? Versus seeing your team together.
Because you had your hands wrapped.
Yeah.
You knew how that felt. So therefore, and I say this to a lot of our amateur fighters, when you find your hands wrapped by whoever it be, whether it be here in Ireland, whether it be abroad, and you find that works for you, the fighter should always be happy.
Yeah.
It's not about the cut man. If I have to cut 5 sets of wraps off somebody because they're not happy, I'll cut 5 sets of wraps and I'll redo them, or I'll get someone else. I'm not going to take offence because somebody doesn't like my hand wraps, or they don't feel as comfortable in mine as they did in someone else's. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I have enough confidence in my skill to know that it's nothing personal. We had a guy recently, like you're saying.
Didn't know I could say no.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean,
you know,
never would have had a complaint like that. So.
And that's it. And we had a guy recently who had like that. He had fought on an Alta show. He'd had his hand wrapped by one of the guys off our team. He'd fought on another show. And he actually come to us then at the 3rd fight and said to us, I got my hands wrapped at a previous show from you at my first fight. My second fight was with somebody else. And is this a new way of doing hand wraps? And I was like, why? And he said, oh, the person that did my hands at the second show, they never put any tape in between my knuckles. And I was like, what? It is one of those things, though, in fairness, like that. Maybe that person was new. I don't know the situation. I don't know that person, so I can't answer that question for them. But all I do know is that, you know, you would never send somebody out without tape in between the fingers, because that's what secures it to your hand.
The second event that I had went to, they weren't offering hand wraps. Basically, it was just the cloth wraps, and they were just having someone just tightly wind them, and that was just seeing the, like I said, the different levels of, you know, what it could be offered.
Was that up in Belfast, can I ask?
No, it was here.
Oh, was it down south?
I'll tell you offline where it was.
Fair enough.
But
no,
you know,
I was just wondering, because what you've just said actually resonated with me on a different show up the north, and someone had said it to me about cloth wraps being used on an MMA show. That's why I was wondering, because it's you
that's the thing. See, like there wasn't a lot of oversight, I'll say, because some people weren't doing anything. You know, so like I said, I don't know.
No, we commission everything we do. So we fully commission, you know, our team fully commissions hand wraps, fingernails, toenails, shin pads, everything.
I mean, they had folks for nails, and like there were people at the cage, but honestly, it almost looked like they kind of like, you know, someone in the crowd, like, hey, you want to say cage side? You know, like I'm not, you know, discounting the you know, or dissing the event or anything. It was just like I said, it was different, you know, and I hadn't seen it before, and you know, like it's like flying first class, first coach. You know, if your first flight is first class, you know, that coach seat.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It's never realistic, is it?
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. It is like, you know, as the years have gone on, it has got better worldwide.
Okay.
Thankfully. I mean, there's still a lot of catching up to do in certain places, even within Ireland itself. There is a lot of catching up to do for the safety of the fighters, and primarily that is what's paramount to me, is the safety of the fighters.
That's the other thing that I didn't know before, you know, kind of participating in the sport, was how big like safety is. You know, like it's taken very seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and I was I'll call myself like a semi-casual viewer of, you know, like UFC.
Yeah.
You know, and like you don't really see it. They don't, you know, kind of show that part
so
of it. But you know, once you kind of get involved with it, you see like fighter safety is taken very seriously. And
again, you've levels depending on where you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Of how much. I mean, Ireland has been voted the last couple of years as the safest place to fight. Thankfully, you know, we have some great teams, like I said, north and south. We have some amazing medical teams that we work with, so we know what we're getting and what's going to happen, you know, and they're straight in on the bat like that there, and that's what you want, you know. And not every country is as regulated for a body that isn't regulated or sanctioned, should I say. So, like, because obviously we're not sanctioned here in Ireland, we are self-regulatory, whereas there's other countries who are fully sanctioned by their governing bodies, and their medical coverage wouldn't be as high as ours.
Speaking of that, like, as much as I think, you know, being officially sanctioned by the government, as much of a benefit as I think that would be, is it kind of nice to not have, you know, kind of government oversight to, you know, really kind of dictate how things are happening? You know, because like obviously, so it leaves, you know, some promotions to kind of do their own thing. You know, like I kind of had just described previously, but then you kind of find that how do I want to say it? Like the main promotions, or we'll call them the popular or the legitimate ones, they see that level of standard, or that they see a level of care that is required to, you know, provide to you know, the fighters, and they're kind of, you know, they're doing it on their own. Like, do you think if the government were to step in, that maybe, you know, these promotions might now try to just, you know, do the minimum that is required, or how do you feel about that?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I mean, I don't really deal with politics or any of that sort of stuff, or governing bodies. I don't think we would ever go back, even if, you know, we got recognition here in Ireland and sanctioning body. I don't think we would, and I don't think any promoters would stoop back down to the level, because in actual fact they provide more than is required.
Yeah, definitely.
And have done for a number of years now. So I don't think they would. And like I said, I don't really get involved in that side of stuff. I know, like, when a promoter, you know, contacts me about doing a show, I always ask the same question: who's the medical team? How many medical personnel are going to be there? How many ambulances are going to be there? You know, how many officials are going to be there? I will turn a show down if there isn't enough cover.
Have you had to do that?
Yeah. And you know, they've come back later on, and we've done the show because they have got a better standard.
Okay, very good.
And I think that's sort of been it's given us a chance to build MMA to a level that, you know, a lot of countries can't even touch us with, because of the safety. Yeah. And I think it's been everybody. It's, you know, it's been years of, obviously it's IMA here at the moment, but I mean, it was the IAPA, and it was all the other names prior to that. It's been going on a very long time. It's not new to us. So I think for that, I don't think they would go back to just a bare minimum safety. I would hope they wouldn't. And I think, like, I am outspoken a little bit, so I probably would have something to say about that, because I wouldn't be comfortable covering a show where the medical team isn't enough. Obviously, we work for all sanctioning bodies, you know, equally. excuse me, and there's different levels, like, and even with the ISKA guys, I have a really good rapport and really good friendships with a lot of them, and I know what they're providing as their standard, and a lot of the times in Ireland they're above that standard that's a worldwide for ISKA shows. So yeah, like, I think it's just, you know, you have to stand your ground a little bit, and not, like, there's 1 or 2 sanctioning bodies in this country that I will not work with, full stop.
Really? Do they know who they are?
Yes, they know who they are, and they've been told. Yeah.
Very good.
And it's just because I don't, 1, agree with the way they do things, 2, they don't provide enough medical coverage, 3, they don't know their own rules and regulations, and 4, when someone tells me, who's supposed to be head of a federation, that if you don't make 100 grand as a professional fighter, no matter how many professional fights you've had, you can go back and fight amateur.
What?
Yeah, stuff like
I don't
that.
think that's how it works.
Yeah, it doesn't. In any other world, it doesn't work like that. But when someone tells me that, I'm like, I can't agree to do a show where they don't even understand their own rules properly. So yeah, there's 1 or 2 I would never work with. But that, you know, that's my own personal preference. That doesn't stop the rest of my team working for them if they wanted to. That's me personally. My team, they work their own shows as much as they do our shows that we have as a team. So, you know, it's totally down to them. They're grown-ass adults. I can't tell them what to do or what not to do. You know, as long as they turn up and do the shows that they're asked to do, and they do them with professionalism, then I'm all good with that. And they do every single time, because I have some of the best people in this country working on the team.
I do, when I do go to shows and I see that it's your guys there, it's like...
Sense of relief.
Yeah, oh no, it's always like, no issues are going to be coming from over here, you know, kind of a thing, you know, and not
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Not that, you know, we would get, or that I've seen issues from others. It's, I know you guys, you know, you do a good job.
See us,
so, you know, it's just one less thing, not even that I have to worry about anything, but like one less thing that, you know, the promoter has to worry about.
Yeah, and it is like we are lucky enough that we have a great relationship with all the promoters we work with, and a lot of our promoters will have probably 10, 15 fighters on that card. So for them, they can just hand us their fighters when we arrive, and then they can go on about their business, and they don't have to worry about anything else, which is the reoccurring theme that we get from a lot of the promoters we work with, is that, you know, they can just hand us everything when we walk in, and they don't have to worry about hand wraps, nails, getting them ready on time, having them out there in time, or anybody in and out of the cage.
Full service, and they know exactly what they're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
awesome. And it's good for it's great for me, because I see how we've evolved in the last 6 years ourselves, you know, from when we first started Insideout Care to where we are now, and how much the team has grown, you know, every single person that's come on board, and it is like a little family, you know. Like, I miss them when I don't see them. Yeah, so we did a course at the weekend, and myself and Brian usually teach the course. Now, if it's a big number, we'll always have 1 or 2 of the other cuts come along.
Where do you teach these courses at?
All over.
All over?
All over. So we did one up in FAI in Fight Academy Ireland, up in Liam Shannon's gym. Yep. So it's open to everybody to come and do. You don't have to have any experience. I do not certify anybody straight away. We have a graduate program if you would like to learn on the job. And I don't do it because over the years, and the reason it come about with the graduate program is because I would get contacted, not only me, but Brian and Danny and Fanula and stuff will have been contacted by people who've done cut courses, 1 day or 2 day cut courses over the years. And once they finish that cut course, and I mean, I have had people from Brazil on the phone to me about it. Right. So all over the world, I've got them from. And they've said, oh, I did a cut course, and now I'm a cutman or woman or person or whatever you want to call it, and I don't know where to get stock, and I don't know how to approach a promoter, and I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, you know, have you any experience other than a 1 day course? And they're like, well, no. And I said, well, you can't really call yourself a cut person then. Yeah. You know.
You definitely need... the experience for that. For sure.
Yeah, and you do need somebody who's willing to...
It's not even a knock at the person, it's just you need to physically do it, you know, and it is a skill. You know, especially with the hand wraps and as quickly as some of your folks can do it, I think is quite amazing because they're doing a lot of work there.
Oh God, yeah, it's like an art form.
Absolutely.
And even like we only had the course on Sunday, and I had one of the guys that was at it on Sunday. He messaging me today ordering stock from our supplier to be sent up the north to him because he's practicing in the gym. I had two of the girls that were at it. Both their husbands are fighters. They were practicing on them since Sunday night when they got back.
Okay. Cool.
I've had a couple of the others on as well saying that they're practicing. I have a guy from Serbia who's constantly on the phone to me who, although he did the IMAF course when I taught it in February, which isn't mine. I just want to point that out. It's not my course. I taught it on behalf of IMAF for them. But I have kept in touch with the guys from Serbia, and they have been getting experience in the gym and doing national shows, and because they haven't enough shows, like they have been, I have invited them to come here and do some shows with our team, whenever they want to gain some experience and stuff like that. So I regularly have a lot of WhatsApp groups over the years going on of the courses that we've done all over, and we might only get maybe 2 cut people like out of the longevity of it. On the long, like, that will stick with it. You know, we get a lot of people at the beginning that go, I want to come to the graduate program, I want to learn on the job, and they don't realise how much you have to give to do it. It's not paid work. You turn up, I'll supply all your kit, I'll supply a t-shirt, and I'll even pick you up along the road if I have to, as long as you give me your time. And we will teach you from the get-go all the skills, the necessary skills to get you into that cage. It might take you 6 months, it might take you 2 years. Everybody is different. No 2 people are the same when it comes to learning how to be a cut person. And that's why I don't give a certificate as a cut person. And why we offer the graduate program.
You have to earn that pretty much through.
Yeah. And I've worked long and hard, and so has Brian and Danny and Fanula and all the senior team that's there. And we, like Dawn, she was only 9 months and she made a senior. And then we had Jack, who was with us for a long time. Now, in fairness, Jack was very young when he joined our team, and he's also an active fighter. So he's only just turned he was 19, so he's with us since he was 13. He's with us a full 6 years. He made senior last year properly. And that really was only because, he was under 18 prior to that. Now, there is no age restriction. Obviously, to work
my next question then.
Yeah, no, there's no age restriction. We don't have an age restriction because people say, I'm a paramedic or I'm a doctor, so I'll be really good at this. And in actual fact, paramedics...
Skills probably don't translate over.
It doesn't, no, because... For a nurse or a doctor or a paramedic, they have the luxury of time to assess damage, and we don't. We have 45 seconds realistically. By the time the klaxon goes, by the time the gate is open, by the time you get in, sit your fighter down, do your work and get out again. You're really talking about 45 seconds, So we don't have the luxury to be able to assess it and then treat it. So we have to just treat and sort of assess as we go.
It's probably nice to have someone who necessarily doesn't have a background, because they don't have their
preconceived
ideas of what they should be looking for. It's only more so what you're talking or what you're teaching them to kind of look for. And they might need to have all this extra information because the doctor's there, and that's their job.
It's not my job.
Your job is to
fix them while they're
stop the bleeding
fighting
as much as you can,
and then let them go again. And that I think is the thing, because in a lot of cut courses throughout the world, they'll teach you about bone structures, they'll teach you about all the muscles and the veins and the bones in your face and stuff like that. And realistically, we don't need to know that.
Sure, it's helpful, but
of course, if you want to learn extra about it, it's helpful, but it's not really in the moment helpful. Because realistically, we need to know an arterial bleed and a venal bleed, or in the nose, a posterior or anterior. Yes, they are very important to know the difference between them, absolutely. But for the majority of, we can't stop a fight anyway. So even with an arterial bleed, it is a doctor's call. We can only advise it's an arterial bleed. On the flip side of that,
where would you get an arterial bleed?
I've seen them here on the side of the head. Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Really?
There were there's one or two Gunnar Nelson's versus, is it Oliveira he's fighting on it? We used that clip in our course. I think, I'm going to say it's Gunnar Nelson and Cowboy Oliveira. I'm going to say that. I'm not 100% sure. But I know it's definitely Gunnar Nelson that's fighting. And he does have an arterial bleed in it.
Squirting out?
Yeah, you can
really?
see it all over the place. But I have seen it a couple of times on the scene, even on smaller shows but it's in a pro fight. I've never seen it in an amateur fight.
Yeah. I don't know, yeah, I suppose especially getting those strong elbows to the face.
Yeah, of course, like, and you know, you're hitting the temple, like, which is a very soft part of the skin. And the other thing is we say, like, we always grease in between rounds because it helps with the skin. It keeps the skin nice and soft and supple, so the skin will fluctuate rather than tear.
Yeah.
So you're less likely, and it's been proven over the years that, you know, greasing fighters in between rounds does work, and it does help. There's been less eye lacerations because of it. Obviously, you can't account for bone structure. You know, bone structure is bone structure. There's nothing we can do about that. But you learn the different types of bone structure without having to know the name. But I will know that someone from Eastern Europe, an Eastern European person, because they've got high cheekbones and high brow bones, that they're probably going to tear easier than, say, you know, someone from maybe Ireland or something that doesn't have that, you know, real high bone structure. So it just really depends, and you learn it. The more you see, the more you work, the better you come at spotting stuff like that, and you nearly know before they even get cut that they're going to be cut. It's weird.
You
like,
get something like the Diaz brothers. Because they have all that scar tissue on their face, they bleed like instantly.
And it's gas because we did a bare knuckle boxing show last year.
Where?
And it was the first one here in Ireland.
Really?
Yeah, it was on up in
cool.
Nori, and the main event and the promoter of it, he actually had.
What was the promotion?
IFC it's called.
Okay.
Robbie Drought runs it. He's from Cork, and they have another one coming up soon. I can't think of the date off my head. I think it's December, sometime early December. I'm not sure, but it's somewhere around there. But Robbie boxed for years and years.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of BKB fights, and he was fighting on this, and a few of his cuts open his old scar tissue, and it looked, you know, absolute mayhem. But though I really didn't even need anything to put on them, a little bit of cold water and a cold cloth with a bit of compression actually stopped it straight away, because it was, you know, old scar tissue that had opened up. So there's lots of different ways. People are happy to just throw a bit of adrenaline on it. Sometimes all it needs is a cold compress, you know, and nothing more. So you know, we have lots of different tools that we use for those sort, and you learn as you go along.
Yeah.
And that's why we teach the graduate program, because you learn on the job and you see it's all very visual, and that's how you learn better than sitting in a classroom.
Yeah, for sure. I remember the worst. The worst cut I've ever seen. It was Robbie Lawler. I don't remember. It was a UFC fight. Robbie Lawler. I don't remember who he was fighting against, but his
whole lip.
Yeah, his whole lip was just split and just dangling there. That was insane. I remember I was at a casino in the States watching that fight, and I'm like, holy shit.
There was someone else, because when I did an interview with MMA on Point last year, and they actually showed me a few different I think they called it Cutwoman Debunks something or other anyway, but they showed me a few different clips of a few different cuts, and they asked me sort of for my opinion on them, and I get very excited when I see cuts like that.
I should have did that.
But I think there was a good few, and I think Robbie's was actually one of those, and I think I got fierce excited by it, because I've not had a cut quite as bad as that on the mouth, but I did. I got hugely excited by the fact that it, you know, between the very bad cuts and the very bad lacerations and this mouth cut, and I think there was one similar to his, maybe not as bad, and I sort of was like, you know, you'd probably get worse when you fall off a bike, you know, busted lip. But yeah, it does. I do get excited when I see cuts like that, and I always think, oh my God, I'd love to have one as bad as that. But you know, it's one of those things. It's part and parcel of the job, part and parcel of the job, should I say? So you know, you fall in love with every aspect of it. So, but yeah, it's an amazing cut. Like, I do remember watching it.
It's healed up very well. Either that or he's got a pretty good plastic surgeon.
Do you know what? I'm sure it's his plastic surgeon. You know, we say it all the time. We have a lot of guys who, you know, are just so used to getting glued, and we always say, please get stitched. You know, it heals better. You've less adhesions under it, you've less scar tissue, and most of the guys now, especially in Ireland, most of our doctors that work the show will stitch on site.
Really?
Oh God,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
And you're not having to wait 18 hours in A&E for someone to do it.
Exactly, because I could see why some people like might choose the glue route rather than having to wait for several hours.
I have often put butterfly stitches on fighters at shows where I've worked that don't have doctors that stitch. They do have doctors on site, but not doctors that stitch. And I have often cleaned it out, debraded it, and put some butterfly stitches on and told them to go to A&E and get stitched up. If it's just a normal straight laceration, it's a few stitches. If it's got some
angles to it,
flaps, we would call it, then it needs, you know, technically a plastic surgeon to do it. The on-call plastics is usually pretty good, you know, they know what they're up to, like, but it will heal better, you know, than the glue. So, and it's less likely to open if you allow it to heal better.
Right on.
And I'm not a doctor, so just saying. So take my advice at your own peril.
If you could tell the public, you know, kind of one thing about, I guess, either yourself or combat sports in general, like what is it that you would want to kind of get out there?
Get your kids involved.
Yeah,
for sure, 1,000,000%. And not just for the discipline, but for their self-confidence. It builds character. There's so many gyms in the world that are great with kids, and they start so young. It just becomes part of their life. And for me, you know, I wish I had have stayed in it, because I started very young, and like I said, as I got older, you know, I was less attracted to it. Had a child, worked, all the usual stuff, and I do wish I hadn't lost that connection to combat sports. So for anyone who is suffering with mental health in any way, shape or form, you know, don't just don't just hide away. Talk to people about it. You know, try, and exercise is a huge it gives your brain a great balance. It helps to release so many endorphins, and it does build confidence. But for me, primarily, like any martial arts, well, I mean, any sport really, but for me it would be martial arts, you know. And any form, whether it be boxing, Muay Thai, K1, MMA, it doesn't really matter. The strength you're going to get from that, and the friendships you're going to build, and the confidence you're going to get, you know, just especially for kids who are going through like bullying at the moment. It kills me to see some of the stuff that I see online. We were reared in a different lifetime to what's going on at the moment. Even my daughter, who's 23, it is in a different bracket altogether from what I see online, like, you know, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, and even as young as 8 and 9. And mothers and fathers have to, you know, not be afraid to poke the bear a little bit and find out what's going on, you know, and sit down with their kids. And like, I know working and money, and there's a cost of living crisis, and all this sort of stuff is a big issue for families at the moment. But, you know, you have to be there for your kids. You really do. Like, and if it is by putting them into a gym, if it is by, you know, spending an extra hour a week just sitting and talking to them, no social media, no computers, no phones, and just talking to them, play a game of Scrabble with them, you know, just have that human time together. If that helps, then I hope it helps somebody. And you know,
I think the internet and how great it is, it's
a devil.
It certainly can be, you know, and I feel like I'm fortunate because I was able to, I grew up like right when the internet got huge. You know, like when it got like, you know, with the internet when it came around like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
But it blew up, especially in America in, you know, like the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
It was huge.
And, you know, I didn't really, I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't really mess with it until I was pretty much an adult. You know,
Same as
and
myself, yeah.
and like, you know, I would have been like, you know, 17, 18.
I was more about 23, 24. You know, I had just had a child. Maybe I was 24, 25 before I really had any interest in going on the internet. And it was more to do with I lived in Mayo and my family were in Dublin. And,
same thing. Like it was
Facebook
communication for me because
exactly.
I had moved away, you know, from my family, and that was, you know, kind of the key way to
for
stay
me
in
as
contact.
well. Yeah. And then when I moved back to Dublin, it was a way to keep in turn with my friends in Mayo, my family in Mayo, and Nisha's family in Mayo. So it was, you know, it was sort of for a long time, and now it's sort of just it is our business.
Yeah, no, everything's online now, and you're kind of like I certainly have like a slight addiction to it. You know, my wife, I think my wife Alison would probably say I have a huge addiction to it. You know, it's fair to say from her point of view, but yeah, no, just, you know, the way, you know, like this works, and, you know, everything, pretty much everything these days is online.
Yeah.
And, you know, it unfortunately
drives me demented. I'm not going to lie. It actually drives me demented. Like, I have become super good at what I do with it.
Yeah.
But I get to a stage and I just go, Brian, please take over, because I think I'm going to throw my phone at the wall, or I'm going to end up splitting somebody with my phone because they're annoying me so much, you know that way. And in fairness to Brian, he is brilliant at our social media and our videos and stuff like that.
That's
where
cool.
I'm nowhere near as good.
Yeah, no, that's something I'm learning at the moment, and like it is tough. But
what takes him 5 minutes to do takes me about 5 hours to do.
Yeah, it's probably the same for me as well.
But we're lucky, like all of the team are pretty good at social media.
Yeah.
So like, you know, they'll take videos and photos and then they'll send them on. So, you know, we are lucky that we have so much comes in, and we're lucky that a lot of the guys that we work with in media take a lot of photos and videos of us, like, and that does help, because for me that's my way of teaching as well, because the bigger shows, it's very hard unless you're really know the production team to get coverage of you working in there, because a lot of the times they've cut out the cutmen, but they do have that there, you know, because it has been recorded. So we're lucky enough that if we know them, they will send us on some stuff.
That's cool. And it is a lot of the time kind of the same people doing all the events, so it is nice, and you definitely get to kind of you get to know these folks. And I know, like I haven't been to like a ton, but just even in, like, the half dozen or dozen that I've, events that I've been to, like, I've kind of grown these relationships with folks, with yourself, and
exactly.
With the some of the promoters and the photographers and everything.
Well, that's it. Like, they do, everybody. It's not just the team that's like family. Everybody on the scene becomes like your family. Like, I don't see any of the lads, and I'm including. When I say lads, I don't generally just mean the team. I mean the promoters, I mean the fighters, I mean the refs, the judges, the commentary, everybody, the cameraman, the Dave, from Fans View, Raz from Irish TV, Irish MMA TV, Nikki from NC Shooters, Jerry McCarthy, all of these, and some of the OGs that don't be at as many shows anymore. When you see them and you haven't seen them for a while, it's really hard, because you want to be over chatting and you want to catch up on everything, and then you're trying to do your job as well at the same time. So it is a bit mad in that sense, that you do, our community is so small, because we're small, but we have a mighty impact, and not just in Ireland. We do have a huge impact outside of Ireland and worldwide, with our fighters, both amateur and pro. And I think that it stands to us as a country and as a nation that we provide every level. We supply great fighters, great both amateur and pro, great coaches, great teams, cut people, media personalities, photographers, and we are like a family. So when we travel to different shows, even if we go to a different country like France, you know, we know we're probably going to know half of the people there anyway. So it doesn't.
You're not alone.
Yeah. In a different country.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it
really
is brilliant. Cool. I love that. I love that, you know, and then the French have become like a little community with us.
Yeah.
And the same in Bahrain. And
how many countries would you say you've been to?
Couldn't even tell you half of the names, never mind what. I can't even pronounce half the names sometimes. I don't know. I don't keep count. I wouldn't be...
What do you have the normal size passport? Or is yours with the extra pages?
I have extra pages on mine, only because I renewed it. But in fairness, the majority of the countries I go to, I don't really need a stamp in. And most of them now are electronic visas, so, you know, a lot of them don't even stamp it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's
I haven't travelled in a long time, so...
there's a lot of them that don't, and if they're part of the EEC, they don't even stamp it anymore, even though they wouldn't be part of the European Union, you know, that way. There is still...
At the little kiosk that you can go through.
And they just scan it on through that way, so I don't know whether they put like a microdot or something, God knows. You know, I'm not no conspiracy theory, so like, you know, if you're following me on my passport, fair dues to you, you know, type of thing. Yeah, no, I have been lucky enough to go to some amazing places over the last like 10 years, you know, or so, doing this. So I am very fortunate, and like that with all the team, we try to build the team up so that the rest of the guys can get out of the country and do some shows with other cutmen and women around the world, because that's like cool. I said, they've, like, some of my team, you know, will have worked hundreds of fights now at this stage, and like we do about 100 shows a year, and you're talking about most shows are minimum 20 fights on us. So that's 40 fighters. That's a lot of fights when you put it together. It could even be more some years, and that's over all disciplines. So, you know, the team is really varied in their skill set. Some people prefer the Thai, some people prefer the MMA, but everybody works on all the shows. So by the time they go and work in another country, they're meeting cutmen who maybe have never left that country and only worked on maybe one promotion. So they might have only done maybe 5 or 10 shows at 15 fights a show max. Yeah. And then they're realising actually that, you know, they can still learn something, and they both can learn from each other, do you know, that way. So that's what it's all about for me, is everybody learning something. I take so much from every cut person I work with, whether they've been in the game a year or 50 years. It doesn't matter how long they've been. There's always something that I can learn from somebody, like, and then I can take that home, and whether I may not use that whole of what I've got, but I might take little bits of it and add it into the stuff I already do, and then put it out there. But like I said, I do things differently to Brian, and Brian does things differently to Fanula and Dawn and Gavin and Jack and Terry and all the team. Like, I don't rap like anybody else, and they don't rap like me. But we all have the same sort of skill set, as in we have a base structure that we use, and after that then everybody has their own system. As long as that's in play, everybody else does it their way. And we all have, like, fighters have their own favourite cut men and women that they go to at every show. You know, it's like some people that come to me all the time and only want me to rap, and some people that go to, like I said, Fanula or Brian or Don or Gav or Jack or whoever, Terry, whoever's working the show. Everybody is different. You know, it really is, you know, a lucky dip when you go. So, you know.
Look, that's excellent, and, you know, I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I wish you continued success, and, you know, like I said, whenever I go to an event, I'm always looking forward to seeing you and your crew there. So
same as us. We are always looking forward to catching up with everybody and just you know, just having a great time as always, like, and making sure that although we have to keep everyone safe, we have a great time with everybody. So that's the best part of it for me. So.
Well,
and I really appreciate you having me on
absolutely.
today.
And, you know, thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime.
You know, I had a wonderful chat with you, and, you know, I can't wait for those offline chats at the, you know, Kate side.
For sure, catch ups.
Exactly. But yeah, so like I said, I appreciate you coming in, and again, thanks for your time.
And thank you for having me.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Right.
Can I give a little shout out to First
Yeah,
Aid
100%.
Systems, to Ian and Shane at First Aid Systems? They've been looking after the team for years, and they supply all our kit. So everything from clothing to all our stock. So it's First Aid Systems.
Firstaidshop.ie.
Firstaidshop.ie. You can get everything online. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And they've been super cool over the years.
So
they look after us.
What's the best way to, if someone wants Inside Out Care at their event, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Well, we have we're on all the social medias, and my mobile number is attached to Inside Out Care on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook.
Do you have a website, or you just use the
We don't have it. We use social media mostly.
Okay.
Because the website we had at the beginning, sort of the bones.
We didn't necessarily need it.
We didn't get any traffic through it.
Okay.
Most promoters come to me because they see me at a show and I'll have a chat with them, and they come to me and I have a chat. But I'm always available on WhatsApp. So, and we have a QR code that's on our, if you can't find the number on any of the socials, if you scroll through the uploads, you'll find there is a QR code there for scanning, and that brings you directly to my WhatsApp as well. There's also an email, cutman1007 at yahoo.com. So it's cutman1007 at yahoo.com. So you can get me there as well.
I'll throw everything down in the description.
Definitely. And like I said, any of the social media pages you can get us on. We're on them all, or they can go directly to me, and I'm on Cutwoman Jess on Insideout Care, or on Instagram, and Jess Isaacson on Facebook or TikTok. I think I'm Cutwoman Jess as well. So the majority bar Facebook, I think I'm Cutwoman Jess on. So yeah, they can get us either way.
Sweet.
So, brilliant. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Much
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right.